Hey guys, Bicebump here, bringing you this Aberrus Unholy Death Knight Mythic Guide. The idea here is to take a look at every single boss in the instance, cover the tips and tricks, as well as see the usage that you can employ as an Unholy Death Knight to both maximize your damage and optimize your survivability, right? Let's just jump straight into it, and we start with the first boss, Kazzara. So, pretty much every single boss in this instance has the same amount of talents, which I have up here, so you can take a look at that. You don't really swap anything out, honestly. I will get to like Zskarn, sure, but otherwise, no. This is like your standard patchwork boss. There isn't not that much we can optimize. Ideally, your raid will employ this tactic where the rifts are placed close to the boss, so you don't need to run out. That's obviously terrible for us in our burst window. Other than that, he does a knockback where you can use Death's Advance. This Hellsteel Carnage, you can use AMS and AMZ for that as well. But other than that, like, there isn't much to it. Bit boring one, but, You might notice during this run that my details will be popping up. So, obviously we have Augmentation Evoker now, which buffs your damage. So, the DPS you see on screen is actually not what you will see in the logs, because some of that is attributed to the evoker. Anyway, you just pop everything in a pool, you use all the cooldowns as soon as they come up, and that's pretty much it. You can see the knockback. I could have used Death's Advance if I wanted to. When you progress this boss, using AMS for if you get targeted one race is a good idea, but it's just standard first boss where there's not that much to it. Let's go to the next one. Next boss we have Amalgamation, whatever. Second boss, right? Same build as the first one, just standard. Not many tips either, I'm afraid. This is another boss where cooldown usage is very standard. You kind of treat this as a single target encounter. Ideally, you want Bloodlust and Pool. I know a lot, like if you progress this fight, you might use Bloodlust later, as in when the bosses actually form one single one. In that scenario, you have to think a little bit more about cooldown timings, because obviously you want to have your Dark Arbiter, Gargle, and Army for that loss. So there are instances where you might actually hold them for a loss, depending on how quickly you can actually get there. For me, it's easy. I just send everything in pool, and that's kind of like the CD usage, and I use it as soon as it comes up, yeah? When it comes to defensives, the Meteor Soak, like you saw me do there, is a great opportunity for AMZ. You'll also see in the second phase, we have another group soak, which is very good for AMZ use. You might think that it's worthwhile to like multi-dot these bosses, but that's not the case. You would just simply sit in this boss until it goes to 50%, and then you have the two of them that you fight. It's kind of important to keep DPSing, like they are immune now, right? But you want to continue getting that army reduction, so that you don't end up in scenarios where you kind of get your Gargle up and running, but can't really use it because you have to wait for your army. Don't want that. Second phase, using AMS here, you should really do that if you get targeted by mechanics. So these bombs, they move out, it's a good opportunity to use AMS. There's another mechanic we need to go soak. Good opportunity for AMS. Like, there's lots of instances. Also, always make sure that you properly spread. This mechanic here can easily one-shot you if you stack on top of a couple of people. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Use Death's Advance when you run away. Let's just have a quick look at what that is. The soak mechanic. Obviously, I use AMZ in P1, so I can't use it in the first one. But we have Gloom Conflagration here. Soak. And then we run away. And you can use Death's Advance so you don't get pulled there. That's it. Not much else to it. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, we've got the Experience boss here. Same build as before, same talents, that's what we're running with. Cooldown usage here is actually very important to consider. So when you're progressing this fight, you're likely to Bloodlust when the second boss comes up. In that scenario, you want to use Dark Transformation and Apocalypse on Pool, but hold everything for when Bloodlust comes, because that's around 45 seconds later. For me, I don't need to care, because, we lost on Pool. Send you just to kill us as quickly as possible. We'll try and kill the bosses in the lowest amount of time we can. But this also just means that, you know, I don't need to care that much about my CD usage, you know. When the bosses get grouped up, generally you want to swap to a new one. I stay on top of this guy a bit for too long, because you want to be able to tab target into the low boss, so you can use Soul Reaper as much as possible. I'm also going to leverage my Deafening K to do some cleave here. It's not a lot of cleave, but you know, you can do as much as you can, right? We have the opportunity to use AMS here. It's when the first boss does this like distance-based AoE, the Bellowing Roar. It also fits quite nicely into Opener, because we're going to generate some extra runic power there by AMS usage. You can also even use AimZ for it to just really funnel that runic power into your gargle. The second boss doesn't do that much that we can optimize. You kind of just keep doing a single target rotation. I won't be saving any cooldowns or anything here, just going to use them as soon as possible, because depending on your kill timer, you will get a second burst window. I think, unlucky for me, our second, like, we kill this really close to 3 minutes, which means, like, you know, I can't really do that much to optimize, but still, just make sure use my cooldowns ASAP, so if I get the opportunity, I can use them a second time. It's always an important aspect. Like, you usually don't come into a boss knowing the exact duration. You might look at your previous kills, go like, okay, I think it's going to be around 3 minutes. Then you know that, okay, I really got to work my cooldowns hard so I can actually potentially get them back up. These little adds that spawn, you can use Deafening K and cleave on them. It doesn't really matter. Like, we don't do that much damage on them anyway, so if you do it not, I don't know, it won't make much of a difference. Anyway, this last guy, you don't do that much. You know, run out, he spawns those adds. I put down Deafening K, I try to do some cleaving on them, you know, do my best, but that's pretty much it. Next boss. Okay, so we have Assault. This is a pretty meme fight. I'm running the exact same single target Radiant build here as I usually do. If you want to get a really good pass here, what you need to do is run like the full Mythic Plus build and kill this boss in like 4 minutes, just sitting on the adds the entire time. That's how we're kind of gonna be able to maximize that big AoE. We, on the other hand, we're just gonna Zerg this boss. We don't quite have the damage to just do it instantly, but the idea is to just go 100% onto him. He jumps away, right? Everyone moves to that side, and we just keep DPSing him. Yeah? And then just kill him as soon as humanly possible. These adds, we are in the full single target build. We do literally nothing to them. I'm still going to dot them up. I'm going to put down my Deafening K to do some cleave. But like, yeah, you'll do like 10-20% of the damage on some other classes that can kind of like, you know, properly AoE these. Boss comes down again. Gonna pop on my cooldowns, you know, make sure he gets down to the threshold, which I think, is it 25%? I think so. He's soon at 35% health, he's going to put it into the Soul Reaper there. And then he's just going to jump into the middle, we're going to follow along, and we're just going to do full single target on top of him. I am going to put down Deafening K and do some kind of cleave on the adds where possible. But as I said, you know, this build really doesn't do that well in this kind of cleave AoE scenario, so it doesn't matter that much. For me as an Unholy DK, how I do a lot of damage here, as I said before, is either by just having the adds up forever and killing this boss really slowly, or killing it really quickly and being able to essentially carry that opening burst to the end of the fight. So you can definitely see as we start, you know, getting a bit more gear, we'll kill us even more quickly, and that's going to mean that, you know, our DPS is going to go up. All right, we can see this. Yeah, there's nothing else. You can use AimZ for the small fire circles. Also a good opportunity to use AMS there. Otherwise, there's not much we can do for survivability. Next fight. All right, time for Rashok. And this does require a little bit more detail because we can do a lot of things here. First of all, same title as before, so nothing to worry about there. However, we do need to talk about both cooldown usage and defensive usage. For defensive usage, Anti-Magic Shell is an excellent ability for this fight. What you're going to do is when the boss starts casting his group soak, you're going to press AMS. That's going to do two things. One, it's going to immune that healing debuff on everyone. You know, it won't have any healing absorption for the healers can deal with. Furthermore, it immunes to your debuff that you need to clear in the middle, right? So you completely ignore that mechanic. Really good for both effective raid healing required, because, you know, that damage when you go in and clear won't happen from you. And also good for you personally, because, you know, you just take less damage. So the idea is, for whenever you start casting that ability, you are going to press AMS. You're also going to press AMS when he goes into the middle to do his kind of big AoE ray damage kind of portion, because it's also going to immune that dot. So you're essentially just going to take much less damage there. Really good. AMZ, you know, you're going to probably be allocated a specific soak. You're just going to put down group. I do the first one here. And then when it comes to your other cooldowns, Icebound Fortitude and Lichborn, really good in final phase. You know, when he jumps there, that deals increasing damage each time it does it. So in the last phase, those ones are going to deal a ton of damage. You want to use Icebound Fortitude and Lichborn for like the final two, essentially. Cool. That's your defensive usage. Now let's talk about cooldowns. So this fight varies between 6 minutes and 30, 6 minutes 35. That's kind of like the enrage absolute maximum, down to around 5 minutes 50, like our guild does it when you really do this fast. So when your progression does, you're probably going to hit enrage, and at that point your focus is to use your cooldowns just as soon as possible. If you waste like 2 seconds every time you press Dark Transformation Apocalypse, it's going to hurt, because the final burst window is not going to come in full effect, right? If you do it perfectly, you press Army and you press Gargle essentially as soon as it comes up, but everything else, you will get exactly 3 uses of all the cooldowns. This means, you know, gonna be really, really, really focused on pressing cooldowns as soon as they come up to make sure you get full use of them, right? That's the main thing. For me here, right, it's a bit different. I know we will kill this in 5 minutes 40, 5 minutes 50. I am getting Shadow Priest PI, so I'm actually going to do something a bit unusual, and that's to delay my second burst window until the 4 minute point. I'm not sure if this is worthwhile, it just creates a big hassle, but essentially what it means is that I use Empowered Rune Weapon on cooldown. I save my third Unholy Assault, and then also save Dark Transformation Apocalypse for 15 seconds to line up with a second burst window. We can actually watch until it comes, because it's going to be in roughly 45 seconds. I remember that was absolutely terrible when I did it, so I'm not sure if I messed something up, but it's what it is. Other than that, that's pretty much the fight, right? You're incredibly tanky. I actually did, when I progressed this, I ran a bit tankier playstyle, so I picked up Will of Necropolis. It's an option. You will lose a little bit of DPS doing it, but for a fight that is such healing intensive, such high damage taken, being that cast, which is, you know, never dies because you're so incredibly tanky, is really a nice attribute to have. Alright, so I'm taking a look at my cooldowns. I have 10 seconds left on Power Rune Weapon. This means that I know I'm going to get PI in roughly 10 seconds. So I'm just going to send my cooldowns here, and we're going to go. One issue here, which I didn't anticipate, which is probably why you shouldn't do this, is when he does this big AoE thing, right? You're far away from the boss. You can see my weaker up there glowing, which means that my Unholy Aura is not affecting the boss. So I'm losing 20% of my damage just from the fact that I can't just sit on top of the boss. So I don't think it's worthwhile to do this. But, you know, try it out, see what works for you. I'm probably just going to send my cooldowns as they come up to get a better, you know, Unholy Aura of time on the boss. And that's it. Boss dead. Really good for this fight, by the way. Just absolutely murdered the boss, so that's a good benefit. Let's go to the next one. Alright, time for Zskarn. This is the one fight that I actually swap out talents. So instead of using Soul Reaper, I have Abomination Limb. And this is specifically to deal with the golems that show up in the fight. Right? Other than that, everything else stays the same. And I'm just going to use my cooldowns in the same manner I always do. Just as soon as possible when they come out. You can see here I'm holding Abomination Limb, and it's because I want to use it to deal with the first set of golems in conjunction with my actual grips. How to do this properly, right? I won't do it that well now, but you know, the idea is these two guys that spawn, group one of them in instantly. Then run far away from the boss, pop Abomination Limb, and group it all together. That's the idea. It really helps if you have some ranged players that CC those two far away golems, because it means they're not going to run far away. One thing that happens is if you don't CC them, they're just going to run to the other side of the room and you won't be able to grip them because they're inside the dragon breath. Right? Don't want that to happen. So make sure that someone sees them so you can then run to them, grip them together, and your grenade can kill them ASAP. So essentially, you only need two grips here, you know. One grip for the first two sets to grip in one of them, right, to kill both of them. And then the second grip is to take one of the CC guys into the other CC guard and you kill those two together. That's the kind of idea. There's a lot of things we can do to help with mitigating damage here. That knockback leaves quite a nasty dot. You can AMS that, which is a good opportunity. However, you can also hold your AMS for when you inevitably get hit by the traps. You know, this boss is so messy. You're probably going to get hit by traps. So you can just save AMS for those like scenarios where like, oh, everything is going down here. This is just so messy. So, here you see a scenario where those, you know, they were not CC'd. So you can see they kind of like halfway through the boss room when we get to the other side, which makes it difficult to grip. So much easier if they just CC'd in some manner so that you can walk to them, grip them together, and then kill them quickly. You can see I'm having to really commit a lot of defenses because you don't get hit by traps, lots of damage coming in. But that's pretty much it. All right, use a cooldown step to come up. As I said, Death Advance for the knockback, and if you have to run away, AMS usage is either if you want to immune the dot from knockback, or for kind of like a panic button when you feel like you took too many traps kind of thing. That's it. Bosses is so much nicer nowadays compared to what it used to be, so that's a good aspect, but not my favorite one. Let's take a look at the next boss. All right, Magmorax. The boss that could have been and should have been Rashok. He swapped this around, it would have been great. Pure patchwork, which means cooldown usage is very straightforward. Just send it all, use it as soon as possible. You'll be looking at around 5 minutes, 5 minutes 30 kill timers, which means that it's only going to be 2 burst windows. So it's not as important to like really be adamant about using your cooldowns ASAP, but still do it. Depends on usage here. AMZ is a great tool to help soak the the small circle, and then AMS, IBF, and Lichborn is for later parts in the fight where you're taking lots of ticking damage. Like, if you're one of the guys that get hit by the final set of kind of soaks that you have to run about with, having AMS there is just a lifesaver because you know, you will be really taking a lot of ticking damage, so you need to make sure you mitigate that as much as possible. Final tip, there's a big knockback, Death Advance, you know, and you're good to go. All right. This is an interesting one because I don't have much else to say, and we're only 1 minute into the encounter, so kind of like whatever. Let's go to the next boss. This is a boring one. All right, time to pull Neltharon. This is I think this is one of my favorite fights, probably because we have some really good weak aura tech here that made sure that the negative aspect of this fight, which is much easier to deal with. But anyway, there's quite a lot to think about here when it comes to cooldown and defensive usage. So lots of things to discuss and look at. We're going to start out the fight by just sending the boss, no loss to whatever, so we're just going to do our normal opener. By the way, same tile as before, we don't change anything at all. This first bit of the encounter, you were going to use AMS and AMZ, because the big AoE circle the boss does deals a really big amount of damage towards the end, so you're probably going to be allocated to use AMZ for that point. You will see I use on the third one here. I'm also going to make sure I use my AMZ you know, relatively frequently on those scenarios to just help the healers deal with the damage intake. But you can also commit, it's great to commit Iceman Fortitude and Lichborn for the later kind of big AoEs. You can use AMZ if you get targeted with one of the what's it called, Molten Heart. I can't remember the name of it, but that will immune the dot that are left on you afterwards, which is a good thing. But I feel like you're targeted so infrequently, and AMS is just used better. For instance, here on the big AoE, we are going to be really hitting our cooldowns as soon as possible here. So when you progress this fight, you are probably going to try and milk the boss towards the 60% mark and do 4 big AoEs. We are going to push him before the fourth one, which means we're just going to complete this fight much quicker. This then means that our final set of cooldowns are going to come at 6 minutes sharp. That's when we have the Bloodlust. If you're doing this boss differently, it's going to be a much more leeway there. You're going to hit that Bloodlust at, maybe 6:20ish, and you don't need to care that much about, using cooldowns as soon as possible, but I'll have to do that, so it's what it is. It does mean that our second set of cooldowns are not that great because there's lots of boss movement kind of thing, so it's what it is. Because your bosses start doing soon at 60%, right? And we're going to skip him by pushing him before he does his big AoE. Alright, so one thing to cover, like if you get targeted with the mind control, it's a good thing to use AMS to kind of help deal with the accidental ability usage from your teammates. Also, it's important to actually limit what abilities you use here. So Death Call cleaves by default, and if you hit that on the boss, you are quite likely to actually kill one of your teammates. So it's a pain, right? We want to press Death Call as much as possible, but we might be having to press Death Strike, for instance, if guards up, that kind of thing. Right, so now you can see the worst possible timing for getting this ability. I just pressed my Arbiter, I have to run out. So this one is just going to do like 0 damage, which is unfortunate. Furthermore, you can see the boss moves significantly here, and I have to use Death Strike so I don't kill my teammates. It's just not an ideal scenario. But it is what it is. So when you are progressing this fight, you are likely to send your first gargle just on the boss without having to deal with any movements and such, so you're probably going to do much better there. But yeah, that just doesn't do that much damage. However, I can't really delay it, because if I delay it, I won't have enough Bloodlust in the last phase, so stuck between a rock and a hard place kind of vibe. It's what it is though. Death Dance, useful if you get targeted by the knockback. I should have used it there, but that means you won't get knocked back, which is good. Again, you can see I am not hitting my Death Call here. It means I actually drop my stacks of Death Rot. I know it's not ideal, but not much to do about it, right? We're going to push the boss, and the next thing that happens, obviously going to go into the final phase. We're going to do that soaking thing where we move into the appropriate little portal. And then we're going to use Bloodlust after the second set of portals. When you're progressing, it's probably going to be after the first set, but you're also going to get there much later than we do, due to not pushing the boss as quickly in phase 1, and probably because you don't have as much DPS. But yeah, I sent out my cooldowns here again. I know I will have lost at 6 minutes, so it's going to be fine. In this phase, definitely with Clawing Shadows Cleave is kind of like the best way you can deal with ads. You are definitely not the spec that does the most damage on them, right? It's just something you need to accept. But still, we're going to do our best. So we're going to dot them up. We're going to put down Deafening K, and do some good old Clawing Shadows Cleave. All right, we're going to have the first set of traps there. You can see I have this little map which tells me where to go. I'm going to go into the green one, just jump into there. Very important, do not use AMS before moving into that portal. It's going to prevent you from getting debuff, which means that when he finishes his cast, you are going to die. So, don't use AMS. That's just it. Same thing here. Ad's going to come in, I'm going to put on Deafening K. I'm going to look at the map, make sure I know where to go next. And then we can see I have Army up in 10, Gargle in 5. Perfect timing. we're going to use those ASAP, and we're going to use Bloodlust. And now I'm going to use my secondary burst window here. You know, I could have had documentation up a bit earlier. Apocalypse got a bit delayed here, which is too bad, but it's what it is, you know. I'm not perfect, so. Oh well. Boss is going to be absolute murdered here. He's going to die, and we're going to be happy, but not get Ashkunda. Maybe next week. Alright. That's that boss for you. Let's move on to Sarkareth. Let's actually watch it die for the satisfaction. I don't know why, but I'm not going a big log here. If you see something clearly I'm doing wrong here, do let me know in the comments. But I just think that Unholy doesn't like this kind of kill timing. That's my excuse. We'll see. Alright, Sarkareth baby, let's go. This is probably not going to look like what you're going to do if you kill this boss on progression. So we do 3 healers, and we do a kill time, which is like 6 minutes and 30-ish. I think we rank 1 here, so this is as quickly as you can currently kill the boss. And we are actually investigating doing 2 healers here. So a bit special. Anyway, a lot of things here still applies if you are progressing this boss. Phase 1, cooldown defensive usage, right? AMS as soon as you pull the boss, when you clear on the breath, and when the ray clears the ray, right? Iceborne Fortitude and Lichborn, if you get a ray in the middle, good idea to commit a cooldown, a defensive cooldown for that. Otherwise, you can just use it towards the end when everyone is clearing. AMZ, use it on the range camp when you're clearing with the race, right? That's the defensive use. If you do that, you are going to be tanky in phase 1. It's going to be a bit scary for me here, but I think it's primarily because we are using 3 healers, which means that the margins are not as large. Now, cooldown usage. Phase 1 is very simple, just press everything as soon as it comes up. Importantly, you want to press everything at the end of phase 1 as well, even though you get like 0 value. Putting an Unholy Assault on cooldown is crucial, because otherwise you're just going to lose a full use of it. So might as well just use it ASAP, get at least a little bit of value from it, so that you then can use it when you go to secondary burst window. Alright, so you can see that phase 1 done. I go down to 8%, whoops, but you know, we use Healthstone. I'm going to keep hitting the boss there, because we're going to be really trying to get our army reduction going as much as possible. It can be tight, especially if you are allocated to running bombs here. Getting that army reduction down is crucial to actually enable your secondary army window. I don't need to care as much, but you know, if you are running those, that's just what I have to deal with. You can use the charge of Desert there. That's what I use to make sure we gather everything up nicely. These adds, Def and K and Cleave. I probably shouldn't do that, because we don't do much damage on it anyway, so we should just focus onto the boss really, and let some classes that do nice funnel damage kind of leverage that. But like, we deal 0 damage to them anyway, so whatever. Next thing that happens, right? If you're running a bomb, you're going to pick that up here, and you're going to go down essentially as late as possible to enable army reduction. You can see I'm already at 14 seconds, so I'm kind of fine. Since I'm not running a bomb, I go down when there's around 15 seconds left on my Summon Gargle. Go down, I gather up 10 stacks as soon as possible. And I go up and I send my secondary burst window. Right, I didn't see that there. Right, there we go. ASAP, right? This needs to happen in perfect kind of synchronization, so that Gargle comes up as soon as you come up, so you can press it ASAP, because I'm gonna have to, you know, I know the boss is dying at 6 minutes 30, so I need to be really careful about that timing. If you don't kill that boss that quickly, it doesn't matter as much, but as I said, I just need to care about it a lot, so it's what it is. I'm going to save 1 shot of Death to Lance, because as soon as I come up, there's going to be a knockback, so I obviously want to negate that. When it comes to AMS use, there's not much damage coming out on this phase, so pretty much the only scenario you want to use it is when the knockback happens. Other than that, you kind of like whatever. This is pretty much the phase. You go down a couple of seconds, come up, you burst the boss, and then it's kind of over. Right, going downstairs. to gather up 10 stacks before the final phase. Timing to going up here is very important because you want to spawn the rocks and stuff and just correct spots, yeah? We're just going to go up, gather everything we need, and then wait for a raid leader to call us out. As soon as we come up, you know, we're going to pop Dark Transformation and Apocalypse on the boss. Dot up, and then also going to do some nice cleave here with Death and Decay. I'm going to stand to the left of the boss here, that's important, because the guy with the black hole stands on the right, and you don't want to accidentally dodge a swirly into the black hole and die. That happened once, not too fun. Not much happening here, so one thing, I'm going to use Unholy Assault here without any other cooldown, is because I know that all my other cooldowns are going to be used at the 6-minute mark, so I might as well use Unholy Assault, otherwise I'm just going to save it for 1.5 minutes, so not ideal, but is what it is. Next thing what happens, we're going to take a Death Gateway. We have this kind of like weak aura that tells us when to use it. And then when I get back to the boss, I'm going to use my next set of cooldowns. So you can see there, take the Gateway, we're going to soak this, use AMS for it to soak. Good opportunity. Going to go back to the boss, we're going to use Death Grip to kind of help group up the ads. And then we're going to use Death and Decay to cleave them, and then just keep going full boss. Now I'm also looking at my timing. So I know I want to go downstairs when there's 15 seconds left on my Dark Arbiter. I won't succeed doing that this time around. I'm the only one going downstairs, by the way. If you progress in this, everyone will go downstairs at like 6 minutes 50-ish. But, you know, I want to go downstairs, so I'm just now looking for a good opportunity. So I want to find one of the swirlies. I'm a bit late. You know, I should have moved already. Here we go. Missed that swirly. Too bad. Get the next one. I just want to get 10 stacks and go up ASAP so I can kill the boss because it's dying in like 20 seconds. Unfortunately, didn't get the best spawn here, so I'm just going to have to deal with it, go up. Send all my cooldowns again. Didn't have army up actually, but that's fine. It did actually mean that I didn't get like full stacks from the set, but that's kind of like whatever. Alright, just nuking boss, use my Death Lance to avoid a knockback, and then boss is dead. I can notice here that I'm standing too far away from the boss, so not getting Unholy Aura, which is terrible, but it's what it is. There we go, Sarkareth dead. Alright, so that's Aberrus as an Unholy Death Knight in the Mythic environment. Hopefully this is useful for you guys that start to progress on any of these bosses. I will put timestamps so you can kind of move through them as you need to see the tips and whatnot. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought about this video. Upload, download, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.